outside of that Jack Welch quote of change before you have to, is genius isn't seeing it, it's seeing it through.
Welcome to Game Changers. My name is Phillip Thune from Textbroker, the leading place to get custom written content, and the commissioner of the Digital Marketing League. Game Changers is all about talking to a digital marketing expert, finding out some game-changing idea or tip that they realized and implemented and made, huge difference to their company or to their career. And sometimes when you change strategy or tactics, like in football, you go to the whiteboard and try and map it out. So today we are really pleased to have Sloan Gaon, the CEO of Pulsepoint, as our guest. Hello, Sloan.
Good morning, Phillip. Great to be here with you.
Sloan, I've already written it down on the board. Your game-changing idea is that the riches are in the niches, but we need to kind of dive into that. And so we've got these 4 parts of our board: kickoff, where you're going to kind of tell us how you figured out that was kind of a game-changing idea; offense, where you'll walk us through sort of, how did you get implemented? How did you get going? Defense, hey, sometimes ideas need a little bit of help. They don't always work right away. So we'll talk about that. And then finally, goal is where we'll talk about, what were the results? What did you see? What's been the impact of that game-changing idea? So let's jump into it. Sloan, again, the riches are in the niches, but walk us through. How did you come up with that idea? What's the origin?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, one of the things that I've always kept dear, close to my heart, and is incredibly important in my career is Jack Welch's old saying, change before you have to. Because if you're changing when you need to, it's probably too late.
Right.
And so if we go back in time to about 2015, Pulsepoint was in the programmatic advertising space. It was a relatively nascent space, but it was maturing. And what we realized is we were a very horizontal network. So we had lots of advertisers in lots of different industries on one side, lots of publishers from different industries on the other, and we made a market in terms of advertising. What we realized in 2015, and we literally, Phillip, had come off our biggest year. Following the year before, we had grown 100%. We had made about $15 million of EBITDA. We were flying high, but we came to the conclusion that our business was going to basically get blown up. Margins were going to compress, and more people were going to want direct relationships with advertisers and publishers. So we started on this journey to figure out how we can find differentiation or a moat in the marketplace. And so our thesis was, hey, why don't we take what we've done and look at specific industries and see if we can solve a problem or bring a solution to the marketplace. And so we looked at a whole bunch of data. And what we realized is most industries had shifted their advertising to programmatic. So auto, travel, finance, they were at 75, 80% of budgets were programmatic. And there was one industry, health, that was still at about 17%. And so we're like, that's interesting. And then we looked at the entire market and we said, healthcare is a great, huge market. It's $52 billion market a year. Healthcare tends to be a very conservative market, slow to change, lots of legal and regulatory issues. And so what we said is, why don't we tackle this? And the first year we went in, we failed miserably. We had the wrong product. But from that, what we learned is the market needed a specific product. And then we went ahead and built that product.
All right, well, let's, and Cassandra's our judge today. She liked that. But let's go onto the offense. Stay on the offense side before we talk about some of the problems. So health, you realized, obviously, healthcare is huge, right? It's a huge part of the economy, so it's a huge part of advertising. But it was underserved. But what was kind of misunderstood? What was underserved about it? What let you play offense where others weren't seeing this opportunity?
Yeah, so I mentioned that year that we were in the market trying to find our way. We went out in the market with something called a deal ID, which is basically a very it's a function that you put into a dashboard and it connects point A to point B. And we tried to get some traction on that, failed miserably. But what we heard from the industry was when we go to the larger platforms like Google or Facebook or the Trade Desk or MediaMath, and we're a healthcare marketer, we want to see language and targeting capabilities that are for us, the healthcare marketer. So, for example, healthcare marketing is all about quite a bit about marketing to doctors because they're the gatekeeper to writing a prescription or a procedure or a medical device. And so they wanted to target doctors, and yet there wasn't really a solution available at Google or Trade Desk or Facebook. And so we created that solution, a very niche-like solution. So when a healthcare marketer goes in, they see that functionality, they see those targeting capabilities. But I have to go back in time, Phillip, because we had no intellectual property around healthcare. We knew nothing about the industry, but we knew that it was a huge market. We knew that compared to other industries, it was way behind. We knew that there weren't the tools and capabilities. And so the first thing we needed to do was bring in that skill set. So I hired a fairly knowledgeable executive to come in, and I basically put him in the corner and I said, here's some clay, go play with it. So we took our existing technology and products and we started over time to morph them. But it was a lot of iteration over time. And then we started to add more and more people who understood the health industry. Then we started to have to educate everyone within the company about healthcare because no one knew anything. And so today, fast forward, we have a lot of educated folks, and we think we have, of all the ed tech companies out there, we have about 600 years worth of healthcare programmatic experience. And that's one of the differentiators we have in the market.
Right. So you found this niche was underserved. You went all in for it. But you were saying a moment ago that when you first launched the product, it was a failure. So I'm sure lots of us have gone through that. We have a great idea. We do our market research. We hire an expert and we just missed the mark. But what I find interesting is you guys relatively quickly, you kind of figured it out and suddenly it started booming. So walk us through those early days, the problems you saw and how you figured out, how to solve them.
Yeah, the first problem was internal because we had a pretty large business on one side that had grown and was really successful. And so we had inertia. Everyone within the company, including the senior management team, was like, why are we doing this? Why are we spending time? Why are we spending resources into this? But we had a deep-seated view that our business was going to change and we needed to change with it. And so it wasn't a failure. We learned along the way. And so one of the things we learned is when we got to the market, that healthcare, people within healthcare didn't understand programmatic. They thought it was not something that they needed to know. And so we had to educate them quite a bit. So we had to educate everyone in our company and hire resources in our company. Plus we had to educate the market. Because the market just didn't know the lingo and they were afraid of what the technology that we're bringing to market. So as we started to roll this out, we got some beta clients. We got one client in particular, PHM, who became and still remains our largest client. But we interacted and collaborated with them almost every day. And from those insights, we were able to continue to evolve the product. And then as we added new clients, we added new insights, and those insights gave us new capabilities and new features that we kept building into the platform.
Right. No, and I think that's critical. Any new initiative, right, is getting that customer feedback and sort of a credit to your organization that you were able to sort of incorporate that relatively quickly, make the changes, show them a second iteration, a third iteration, a fourth iteration. So that makes sense. All right. So, so you did that successfully. You start to add more and more clients. I sort of know the answer to this because I've known you for a long time, but walk us through how long was it until, sort of that focus on health actually became bigger than the existing business, which, as you said, was doing pretty well.
Yeah, it was like a little pipsqueak. We barely registered any revenue that first year. And then second year we had that beta clients, and we started to see, it was $2,000 a day, $5,000 a day, $10,000 a day. I think that first year, full year, we did about 2 million. And then we kept adding new clients. We kept adding new function and features. We added a data analytics platform, which really drove adoption of our platform. We kept educating the market. We kind of positioned ourselves as the leader in the programmatic healthcare space. There was no one really serving that market like we were. And we went from being an advertising company to being known as the leading programmatic healthcare company. So it was a lot of positioning, but also adding more and more clients. So we went from 0 to 2 million. This year, I'm so proud to announce we're going to cross $100 million of healthcare revenue. And so it's been a fantastic ride up. And the team has done an amazing job executing. And Phillip, one of my favorite quotes, outside of that Jack Welch quote of change before you have to, is genius isn't seeing it, it's seeing it through. So the team saw this vision about focusing on the niches, and in particular healthcare and programmatic, but it was really the execution, and the team did an amazing job executing on it. And the revenue results speak for themselves, but also margin. We tripled margin by moving to this niche. And then it culminated, Phillip, with an M&A transaction earlier this year where WebMD acquired the business. They realized they didn't know anything about programmatic, had a small business. They wanted to increase their product depth and their team depth, and ended up acquiring us. And we've had fantastic early success as part of the WebMD family.
Right. No, and I think that's that's probably right. The ultimate success is that you were a general programmatic company, and then you end up getting acquired by WebMD, obviously clearly a healthcare company, and that's all they focus on. So they got it. I'm curious, one question, because I don't know if the audience might be wondering about this. So you're the clear leader. You sort of explained how you kind of capitalized on some early successes, some early clients. What does the market look like now? Has anybody followed you? Have the big people, sort of realized the riches are in the niches, or has anybody smaller sort of come up? Where does it stand today?
Yeah, great question, Phillip. So I mentioned 5 years ago that healthcare was spending about 17% of their budgets on programmatic. We estimate they'll finish the year at about 36%. Wow. So more or less doubled their percentage of programmatic, but still about half of the rest of the industries like auto, finance, and travel. So it's still a long way to go. And so there's lots of upside. But yeah, we've seen lots and lots of competitors step into the fold. So the larger players like the Trade Desk and MediaMath are now offering the same product that we brought to market 4 years ago, the one that I said we can target doctors around. So they're adding that functionality, but we continue to step up our game. Last year, we introduced basically a Google Analytics for healthcare marketers, which has been a game changer for us. Data drives business today, and our product gives our customers lots of analytics. But we also saw some interesting smaller ad tech companies get formed and are now in the market competing against us. And it's doing exactly what happened 5 years ago. It's driving down, there's competitive pricing, and it's driving down margins. And so we're continuing to think about that original statement I started with, which is change before you have to. And we just came off a strategy session where we have our next 3-year plan, and our business is going to look radically different from what it looks like today.
Yeah, no, that's phenomenal. And I think that's a good place to end it. So you became the leader, But obviously, just because you have a leadership position doesn't mean you sort of can just ride on your, kind of coast, right? You have to keep innovating, and no doubt that you guys will. And I think that combination with WebMD, kind of a game changer, because nobody else in the ad tech space, the programmatic space, right, has that kind of partnership with such a solid source of traffic. So anyway, Sloan, this was awesome. I think you explained really well why sometimes for a company, even a company doing really well, focused on a generalized sort of broad market, honing in, figuring out where the niches are, which ones are underserved, which ones have real opportunity, and then going after them. And I loved your point about, sometimes you have to start with your own internal team to understand why it's such a big opportunity before you try to go out into the market. Because if the team's not believing, it's not going to work. So Sloan, phenomenal. If you want to hear more from Sloan, more about both programmatic advertising and then also about sort of kind of running a business, we've got some other episodes of Counterpunch with Sloan. Sloan is a member of the Digital Marketing League. So we'll link below to a video, an hour-long video that Sloan did at one of our online conferences. And so if you like this episode, please hit that like button. If you have any comments or questions, leave them below. And of course, if you want to stay tuned, subscribe to this channel. Thanks a lot.